Hi and welcome to my PlayHouse, and today we have a package here from a subscriber, and we're gonna be looking at that. But in the meanwhile, I can see that YouTube is not promoting my videos as much as they used to, so I would like to, well, I think it's over here, or is there is a subscriber button. Not, you have already subscribed, I'm sure, but you can actually go into that subscription feed and see all the videos that comes out from the channels that you're subscribed to. I use that myself. I do not have as many channels that I'm subscribed to, but I watch all of their videos. So please check out subscription, the subscription button over to your left. Which way is that? That would be, I think it's over here. I could be so wrong. It seems to be the only place where you can still be sure to actually see all the videos from the channels that you are subscribed to. You can hit that bell button. I'm not sure how that works, but back to the video. Let's see what I got here. I got a package from Vojta, and he's from the Czech Republic. And I do kind of know what this is because I have been mailing forth and back with Vojta. Is that right? Vojta? I'm butchering that. I'm sorry. I'm very bad at that, and I have no idea how it's pronounced in Czech Republic. Very careful about that. I called it Czechoslovakia back in another video, and I got killed in the comments. So it's Czech Republic. So let's open up, see what Vojta sent me. I can see that he has reused an envelope from one of probably his Chinese purchases. I can see that because I get a lot of those too. So let's open sesame. Oh, a nice box. So if we look at the back here, we can already see that it's CPUs. Very nice packaging. I was chatting with Wojciech about him sending this, and I persuaded him to pack it in a way so that it would enter a normal mailbox, which saved me the trip to the post office. So here we have some. These are the Intel Xeon x3650s. These are 2.66 gigahertz, 12 megabytes of cache, and there are 6 core processors. So there are 6 of these processors here. So 6 times 6, that must be 36. 36 cores he has sent me here. Awesome. Thank you very much, Wojciech. I knew that these were coming, so I have been planning a project where we're gonna be using this. He sent these because we were looking at the M2s, the Lenovo x3650 M2s, and they can use this processor even though they were designed with the Xeon 5500 series in mind. They can also use the 5600 series, and where the 5500 series is only quad core, the top processors, which this one is, I think this is kind of the smallest one that has 6 cores. I'm not totally sure about that. They might have added some in the low power and stuff that's also 6 cores, but 6 core processors are available for these servers, and it's a shame not to be using them. These processors are not that expensive anymore. If you go on eBay or Amazon, they are very fairly priced. They use a lot of power, you have to be mindful of that, but they're very cheap. So you get a lot of processing power for not very much money. You pay through the power bill. But my idea is that we should try and upgrade one of these. I know that I have at least 2 of these that has Intel Xeon 5530s or 40s, I'm not sure, and they're the quad-core CPUs. If we take one of them and we install I was planning on installing Windows 10 on that. Oh, it just became Windows Server 2016. Let's install that on there, run a benchmark, then upgrade the CPU and see how much additional CPU power we get out of that for not a lot of money. So if you have a server like this in your data center with older CPUs, it can prolong the server's life by quite a bit by replacing the CPUs in it. You just get that much more CPU power out of it, and everybody is happy for a longer time. So I'm gonna pick one of these. I'll go and power it up. We will find one with the right CPU. Also, Sasha in the UK, he sent me this Samsung SSD. It's 512 gigabytes. It's a 850 Pro, and he sent it for me to use in a laptop, a Dell laptop. And I thought it was too good to put it in a Dell laptop, so I have actually put a 500 gigabyte Evo drive in that laptop, and I think I'll be using this awesome SSD out here in the data center instead. So I'm gonna find a tray for this, and we're gonna put that in the server, and we're gonna install Server 2016 on this drive. So let's go into the BIOS of this machine. Let's see what we have here. So system information, summary. I have powered up number 2 over here. That one. And this one seems to already have a good CPU. Okay. It has a quad-core CPU, but it's still an X55, but it's an X5570. I'm gonna try the next one in the row. Okay, now we're on the bottom server here, and that's the CPU that I was looking for. That's a quad-core, and it's the E5530, and it's a 2.4 GHz quad-core with hyper-threading. So I'm gonna install Server 2016 on this server, and we're gonna run a benchmark, and we're gonna try and replace the CPU. It is becoming an older server, but I'm sure we can squeeze some more out of this. Okay, a little bit later, we have installed Windows Server 2016, and I have copied over a couple of my favorite test programs, and I have Task Manager open here to make sure that the server is not doing anything weird in the background, and it's not using the processor at all right now, so that's cool. So let's start this performance test. Pass mark, which I really like, although I don't like it enough to actually pay for it, so I'm running the evaluation version once again. Continue, and it's gonna gather some information about the system. There, it's done with that, so now we can run a test. Passmark can test all kind of stuff, and I'm really only interested in the processing power right now, and testing the other stuff, well, it takes a while, and I want to get this over with it. So let's just test the CPU. So test CPU all. So we're just going to be running the CPU test of this. We'll get the results on that. There, the results of the CPU test. So this computer, it calculates a number for the whole CPU. The CPU, it does a lot of different tests, and some of the tests might be better, some of them might be worse, and yeah. So I'm just going to be using the overall compilation of what it thinks this CPU is good for. You can see it's not as good as some of the other CPUs in overall performance, but in Czech math, it beats the CPUs that it's comparing itself with. So I made a note of that in a little text document here. So we're gonna save that for a second. Save, and we're gonna run the next test. That is Cinebench, and I know there's a lot of test programs out there, and I really can't run them all. But let's run it on this CPU. There. And what it does is that it calculates this picture using the CPU. And each of these squares represents a core, probably a virtual core, because there looks like there's like 16 of those. Otherwise there should only be 8. And there are definitely more than 8. Bit hard to to count them as they are moving around, but yeah. So in just a little bit we will have a number of how fast the CPU is in Cinebench. It gave me 727, those two CPUs. I have powered it off, I have removed the plugs, so we can now work on the server. Yeah, I think we need to clean this as well. Okay, to get to the CPUs, what do we need to take out? We need to get rid of this and this riser card. This one. Another piece of plastic. And here are the two CPUs. This is CPU number 1 and this is CPU number 2. So if you only have one CPU in here, you need to put that one in, otherwise it won't work. And it says CPU number 1 down here on the system board, and it says CPU 2 over here, down there. Okay, it's not bad. This server is equipped with 64 gigabytes of RAM, but let's take the CPUs out. This works pretty much like a normal PC. There is a little thing here that you release on both of them, and the heatsink pops up. This heatsink is really meant to go, it can both be used in the 3650 and the 3550. It's half height, and there is some really dried out cooling thing on there that we need to remove. Just have the CPUs out as well. There is just another little lever here to release that. Pop that out. And these are original CPUs from IBM, I'm sure. Well, Intel CPUs, but they have been in here since the server was an IBM server. So we're gonna put those aside. I'll clean them later. Don't need to be right now. Be very careful about not bending all these pins in the socket. If you bend one of those, the system board is more or less just scrap. It's very difficult to unbend them, and if they break off, well, you're looking for a new system board. Here are the new CPUs. They look very similar to those we just took out. It's really only the numbers on there that tells the difference, that this is another CPU. Otherwise you can't really see it. And we need to put them in right. That it has to correspond with the pins beneath it. So is that correct? Yeah. Goes in like that. There's a couple of pins that needs to go up against the CPU. So, and the other one is turning the other way. So, okay. There. Let's close this up. So, since this server was produced, it hasn't gotten, the CPUs hasn't been out. Pretty amazing, right? So, I cleaned both of the heat sinks off the old cooling compound. Heatsink compounds. I'm just using this is something that I bought in China 4 years ago or something, and it's a really big syringe, and it has been doing quite well. So I have my own way of putting on heatsink cooling. Everybody else has theirs. I have found that this usually does well enough. Everybody has their own way. Everybody thinks their own way is the best. I am not gonna judge. I like this way. There we are. and we're just gonna put the heat sinks back in. On the 3650, a bigger heatsink could have been a good solution here. I'm surprised that they haven't done that. But everything in the server is really meant for this heatsink, so the plastic and everything will not fit if you put in anything higher than that. So it's a bit weird. And it's not as if it cools well enough. The X3650 Model 2 is only meant for CPUs up to 95 watts. These CPUs are, so they're good. So let's put the plastic back. This piece went over here, that away. There's a couple of cards in here. I'm not gonna be using those for anything. I should really take them out, but as I didn't do so before we did the first test, I don't want to jinx the results because of some cards. Anyway, these cards are killer Czech fiber channel cards, 4 gigabits. And this piece of plastic. These pieces of plastic are important. They make sure that the airflow is right in the server. Like over here, you can see that the airflow goes down here. So the air from this fan is directed through the CPU. There are some tiny holes in the plastic here, which you can't see those from that angle, but they're meant for the air to go over here. If we have some PCI Express cards that needs a bit of cooling, well, they will get air that way. Someone has made sure that these plastic things are designed just right for the right airflow in different areas of the server, so it's very important to keep them in. Over here, the power supply actually draws in air. It sucks the air that way, and that will cool the rate controller over here, so that is good. That's why there is only 3 fans over here. One for this CPU, one for the RAM, and one for the CPU over here, and then they cool some stuff behind the CPUs and RAM. So while the server is booting here, I want to clean off these CPUs. I don't want the old heating cooling compound to be sitting on there, because it gets in everywhere. Well, one moment there it's on here, and the next moment it's on the legs beneath it. So looking at the CPUs like that, there is really no visible difference between the 5500 series and the 5600 series. So you have to read the text to find out what you're dealing with. So we're up and running again, and the system has even found that the number of cores or whatever is found out here is not optimal with your current system. So we need to say yes to this, and it will reconfigure something. Funny enough, it says over here that these are 2.8 gigahertz. So, okay, let's run the test. I have had that booting here in the background, so we can start the CPU test. Test CPU all, and we should get quite a better result than before. Test is done, and this time we got 9075 out of it. So I'm gonna add that to my little spell sheet here, which isn't a spell sheet but just a text document. Checking the results on these, you can see that it does okay. Up here there is one CPU that does better, an i7 3770K, 3.5 gigahertz, probably a quad core, I'm not sure. It does a little bit better. All of these are normal computer CPUs, but some of the graphs down here, the Xeon CPUs in here does really well. Like it does twice as good in integer math than the other CPU here. And if we scroll down, we can see that here it does best. The next one, it does pretty decent, but it's far from the best. Here it's a bit lower than the best. Here it does really good as well. CPU compression, encryption really well as well. Physics not as good. Down here sorting really good. CPU single thread, it does not do very well. There are 6 cores. There are compared to many of these who has only 4 cores. Well, they do better in single threaded application. Cinebench, let's try Cinebench. There are more CPU cores available. I can count that in my head. There should now be 24 cores available instead of the 16 cores that there were before, because of the hyperthreading and stuff, and it's done. And it scores very close to the one down here. It's the same CPU, so 1273, not a bad score. So a little bit of really quick math says that, well, going from the E5530 to the x3650 in pass mark, we get 131% out of that. That's a improvement of 31%. In Cinebench, we go from 727 to 1273. That's a 175% improvement. So a 75% improvement. Back when these servers was new, there was a considerable price difference in the CPUs. You had to be ready to pay many extra hundreds of dollars to get a better CPU. But now they're really cheap. I was just checking the prices, and on Amazon I found that x3650 was actually available for $20 a piece. Thank you very much for sending the CPUs. I do enjoy getting packages very much. So upgrading an old server like this for $40 and actually getting 75% extra computing power out of it is a really good deal. A server like this is expensive nowadays. If you have to go out and get one that can do the same thing, well, you have to pay probably $2,000. It will have the next generation of processors, but if you just need a processor that will do the same as the 2 x3650s that we just put in here, my best estimate is that you would have to pay around $2,000 for a new server. Of course, you get new warranty and new service and all that good stuff, but if you have a server like this running your system's important ones, $40 for an upgrade like this is really worth it. Just think of the time that you would save installing the operating system, tweaking and stuff like that. I must say that the Lenovo x3650 Model 2, you need to run the latest firmware, or a pretty new firmware, for them to actually be able to run this Intel Xeon 5600 series. But when you're above that firmware, works great. Thank you very much for watching my videos. Do subscribe to my channel so that you can see me again, and have a really nice day. Bye bye.